Now we come to the next topic, which is on the legal sector, the way forward. And I'm very happy that I have got an august panel with me. So somebody could do the honors for me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We live amidst a universal pandemonium where everything is in a flux, dazed by the sun of transition. And at this time of universal peril, India talks about what next. And we move forward to legal sector way forward. For the session moderator, we have Mr. S. Ramaswamy, former EVP Group General Counsel, Escorts Limited, Chairman, INBA GC Section, and founder, Medha Advisors. Ladies and gentlemen, may we have a huge round of applause. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Aditya Shankar, lead partner, dispute resolution of Kaden Boriss Global. Dr. Manoj Kumar, founder, Hammurabi and Solomon. Sorry. Ms. Nandita Khurana, Zone Head Legal, Africa, India, Middle East, Michelin India Private Limited. Professor Dr. Chandrashekhar Rawandale, Director and Professor at Symbiosis Law School, Noida. Ojasvita Srivastava, Senior Manager, Reliance Communications. And Ms. Ujjaini Chatterji from Symbiosis Law School, Noida. Ladies and gentlemen, may we have a huge round of applause for the panelists. I request Ramaswamy sir to take over.
Thank you. You can see how blessed I am. See what a wonderful panel I have. Please be seated, lady. Don't worry about me. I can keep standing the whole day. Good evening, everybody. The topic, legal sector, the way forward. Not required. India is on the cusp of a change, a huge change. We all agree. And it's been more focused now with the Prime Minister's own ambition of getting India on the top 50 by the year 2017. Difficult but not unimaginable or something which is not achievable. Already a lot of strides have been made towards that into various sectors, and we can all see that reverberating in our daily lives also. So we thought, why not use this as a platform to showcase and to discuss. Now, one beauty you will see here in this panel is that the stakeholders are wide and they represent the cross section of the society. So not only do you have lawyers, you have academician, you have a student. For the first time, I don't know how many people actually get student also on board. We have student, and then we have the professor himself who teaches, and I am, as a ex-GC, possibly going to give the overall bird's eye view. So with that, without much ado, some of our panelists have prepared a presentation of 3 minutes each. So 3 to 4 slides, 3 minutes each. In case the technology works, we get on with it. So who is the first one of the block?
While we hope that technology works, I'll do a quick introduction. I'm Nandita Khurana, been a lawyer for about 29 years and in-house for the last 10. It's been an interesting journey as a litigator and then corporate law firm and then now in-house. So I've tried to cover the entire gambit to try and figure out what really interests me. And I think I am where I want to be at this point of time and actually looking at giving back to society. But coming from there, when I was asked to speak as a panelist, my first question was, who are the others? And when they told me, I said, all right, there's just so many eminent personalities. So I really don't think I should be presenting too much. And to have, to do a presentation as a panelist is really, this is the first for me. I prefer to speak extempo, so if I mess it up along the way, pardon, I beg your pardon, right up front. And my intent is not to stand and pontificate and make you listen to my pontification. I don't believe in that, so I'm going to make it quick and I hope I don't take my 3 minutes at this point of time. I can just use this. Yep, that's the arrow, right? Yeah, that's okay. So really, I represent industry. And when I talk about industry, we entered India about 10, 12 years ago. We faced a lot of issues. So I'm really just wanting to bring a snapshot of what we have seen, what we've experienced, and how we see this progress and what are the hopes we have from the future. So if I look at ease of doing business in India and where India stands today, it is at 130, despite all the progress that has been made. And we keep talking about, well, what really constitutes ease of doing business? When the World Bank goes and looks at, when it quantifies this, what is it looking at? And I'm sure this is going to resonate with a number of you who are in-house. We are looking at construction permits, getting electricity. Now we are really getting down to the nitty-gritties, getting credit, paying taxes, enforcement of contracts, resolving insolvency, litigation, as well as protection of minority shareholders. This is just an example of the things that we deal with on a daily basis when we first think of entering India, and which is really reflected in the ranking that India today has. I don't know if you're aware, but we are actually way below countries like Rwanda, which is at 56, Botswana, 71, and even our neighbors, Nepal and Sri Lanka, which are present in 3 locations by ourselves. And we have something like 27 warehouses, which means we have to adhere with, we have to manage our compliances for 30 odd places, and that's about 1,600 compliances. Imagine what the ramifications are if we slip on a few of those. And that, I think, is something that everyone is facing at this point of time. So really, the laws need to change and need to change really quickly. But there's hope, of course. Lots of infrastructure issues. Roads are not there, promises are made, never kept, and there are constant delays. So for instance, the Land Acquisition Act itself has ensured that we had a delay for about 4 years, which really for the life cycle of a company is unimaginable. Then bureaucracy, the indifference, the corruption. We faced it. We happen to be in one of the states where I have faced it myself, where we've had to do things like walk in with our code of ethics because the minister himself wants to meet us at some point of time, but we're making sure we are handling the bureaucracy at that level to ensure that the message is going through right to the top. Foreign investments and regulations, I'm not going to, I think pretty much everyone, almost everyone here is a lawyer, so I'm not going to go into details in this very little time. And of course, permits, and the biggest one of corruption. When I talk about corruption, what exactly do I mean? I know where we are on the International Transparency Index. We know we've gone up a couple of points and places, and we're very, very happy with it. But really, I think for us, when we, as a foreign company, when we look at India, we need to look more like, we need to figure out what the perception index is. And this is self-explanatory. I don't need to tell you what this means for us. We are amongst the top end of that highly corrupt perception index, which to convince foreign companies to come in, to encourage investments, it's a huge challenge. It's so much easier to go to Africa. There are a lot of societies in Africa, a lot of countries in Africa, which are far less corrupt than ours. So this has to change, and this perception has to change. I know, I'm aware of the fact that this is a legacy of the British that we are suffering from, and it will continue to grow. I hope, because I'm seeing the green shoots, and I hope it does eventually disappear and perceptions change. But then I do see a lot of hope. When I look at miles to go, we do have miles to go. The changes in law which we all are living through these days, I'm talking about the Arbitration Act, GST, the enforcement of competition law, and very recently the economic reforms in the forms of demonetization. There is a raging debate in the country on whether or not it is a great move. I'm not going to give you my opinion on that, But just to share what the perception is outside, because I've been interacting with people at, from various countries, and constantly I have been given feedback, what a bold move, what a great idea, why didn't we think of it? Australia's thinking of doing exactly the same thing. So if I look at the global perspective, even a Singapore newspaper had a very interesting front page, which had the Prime Minister's, half of Prime Minister Modi's face and the other half was Lee Kuan Yew's face. And this was a new Lee Kuan Yew is born in India. So, that's the kind of perception change that we need to see. What about our labor regulations? On a regular basis, I see some GC sitting around me and I think I don't need to, again, talk about it, but it's very, very obvious where the issues that we face, the time that we spend in court. I know I file a case, it's okay, it'll get taken care of in maybe 10 years at whatever level, if the judge is not corrupt. So, that's something I have to go and talk about and tell people who are not familiar with India. So I think I have a duty to convey the cultural context of India too, because they need to understand where we are coming from and how to make themselves relevant in our country without, of course, letting go of their values. And then, of course, the tariff and non-tariff barriers. In my trade, which is to do with tires, we have plenty of those barriers, the competition being what it is. So that in a nutshell is my view on where we need to go. And of course, how do we achieve it is through legal reforms. And it is definitely a step in the right direction that I'm seeing the economy take over the last probably 12 to 18 months. So I'm very hopeful. Thanks.
Thank you, Nandita, for your snapshot analysis. And on a lighter note, let me say, when you spoke about the infrastructure issues, since you are from the tire industry, the best way to test your tires is on the Indian roads. Sorry for my one-liners, I can't help myself from bringing them up. So next, Dr. Manoj, he will speak from the perspective of a law firm. And as I said, each one of them will give you a complete panoramic view of, how they feel that the Indian legal sector or the legal reforms are shaping up. Dr. Manoj.
Many thanks, Mr. Ramaswamy. I just want to correct that I'm not limiting my thoughts to the perspective of law firms, because the way law firms have developed and evolved over the last few decades, the last decade or hardly 1.5 decades, I think we have a long way to go. And it's too early in the day to talk about perspective of law firms in law sector reforms and way forward of the country. I think there's just too much gap. Law firms themselves still need to evolve to a level where they achieve a certain level of professionalism, where they become actual stakeholders, participative stakeholders in development, and start looking at the nation first and beyond themselves. Till that level of maturity comes, I think there's hardly a law firm perspective when we talk about development. Anyway, but with that, I just want to talk about the law. So exit. That's the Apple and non-Apple problem. I'm sorry. Just a minute. Yeah, I think I've got it. Yeah. And how do I put on the slide? How do I blow this up? Yes. So I've kind of reworked the topic a little bit. It's all the same still, way forward for the legal sector, but I've tried to give it a little focus so that we know exactly what way forward are we talking about. So I've reworked it to mean way forward for the legal sector, driven by issues of development. I think any policy reform, I want to pause here before focusing on legal sector. I think any kind of reform or any kind of priority setting for the nation. Legal reform is only a part of it, is a part of the overall policy framework of the government of the day, any government of the day, whether it's the present government or any government in future. And obviously, those priorities of the government decide the shape and direction of the reforms in each and every sector, be it any kind of a business sector or a professional line, accounting, legal, automotive, power, energy, anything. So, I'm trying to take a cue on what ought to be the driver for any kind of a reform in the legal sector in particular. And to my very pleasant surprise, I came across some very interesting issues on this discussed globally as well, and even in India. And fortunately for us, the issue came up before the Supreme Court in 1996, and we had the Supreme Court which said the following in a judgment that I'll just name the judgment a few minutes later. The right to development is inherent, is an inherent right. This is the judgment 1996 down below. Those are certain global developments. The right to development is an inherent right in every human being, and that the right to life under Article 221 under Article 21 includes the right to development. Now, with this, let's pause here. We have had knee-jerk reactions based on issues that have been thrown up on development before the government as a priority or before the court. For example, right to health, right to education. I think the cumulative effect of all these various rights of the people is all included in the right to development in Article 21. And so when we discuss about legal reforms or reforms in the legal sector, I think we should be looking at the larger picture. Where are we headed with the reforms? What is the priority for the reforms? Is the priority to cover or look at an interest group or look at the nation in totality? What are the broad pictures that we are trying to achieve? The constitutional mandate is very clear, and that's not something new. It's just a judgment of 1996, and also, the government of the day possibly realizing that development should be the center stage of reforms. But that's not nothing new. It's not a choice. It's a compulsion, and it has to be delivered. What are then the development challenges that ought to be met through reforms in the legal sector? Could we evaluate some of them? Precisely the issues that need to be covered in legal reforms are the following. I had brought a written speech, but I'm tempted to speak extempore. Ease to do business. I'm probably speaking some of the issues that my colleague Aditya would be touching as well. Ease to do business, and the development of any country is underscored by the growth of that country. Growth is underscored by the growth in commercial transactions, by the growth in GDP. These are very elementary issues. So when we talk about the legal sector, we also need to see how do we ensure that growth gets the central focal point, and everything, all the support that the legal community can give, that support should be provided to all the stakeholders who are engaged in the process of the growth of the country, the commercial transactions of the country, be it the clients, be it investors, be it foreign investors. The legal community comprising of judges, advisors, commercial advisors, litigation advisors, students, law colleges, everybody has to play their respective role in ensuring that growth does not suffer, even if they suffer a little bit. Demonetization is a classic example. Discomfort does not mean you put the nation to be number two and your self objectives as number one. I think people of the country have shown this today, that discomfort is okay, but we should be heading towards, there should be a roadmap that we are heading somewhere. I think even in legal reforms, that's the process to be followed. Growth should be center point. So coming down to more particular specifics, how do we ensure that development does not suffer? Number one, providing the best quality of legal support at the very doorstep. Anybody who has an idea, any stakeholder who has an idea, if that idea has to turn into reality, the quality of legal support should be available just outside your room. So one, of course, opening of legal services. There's been a lot of debate on it, and I'm sure going forward there would be more maturity on how exactly to achieve the gap between the people who require foreign legal support or quality legal support for that matter, and the people who provide who are not present in a connectable environment. So one, to bring quality legal support at the doorstep. Secondly, to create an environment where legal research and training is qualitatively increased by levels so that the new challenges in new areas of business, if those of us who have lived through the liberalized India phase, we have seen new areas of business opening up step by step. We saw the power on the energy side, we saw infra, biotech, telecom, and it's going on, it's not ending. There's no end to it, e-com. So this is going to continue, and newer challenges will come. Most of these areas we have not had a bandwidth already available in the country because we never had these areas to practice in the past. Compare this with other jurisdictions where this phase has been crossed many times over in the past already. So you have a learning curve to capture, whether you want to do it by the trial and error method, or you want to be at the very top class legal advice level from day one. It's a choice we have to make. And for that, we need to have enough room for exchange of expertise, exchange of training, creating learning labs in Indian law schools, more collaborative arrangements between people in any jurisdiction in the world who have already done research and transactions in areas which are new to us. So the skills could be created in an incubation facility in the Indian law schools, and that's where the collaboration can help a lot more. Another area of concern is how somebody in the morning, I think, referred to the ecosystem with respect to enforcement of contracts. That's very critical because we are quite low globally on that. Apart from the number factors, when we're making a policy, it should be driven to ensure that we have fast-track judicial delivery system. Unfortunately for us, when we talk about problems in judicial process, we talk about the huge backlog, we talk about the speed, but we seldom try and connect it to why are we talking about the problem. We are probably just talking because the numbers are very high. But we're still not talking because if we have to get to a certain level of our GDP or a global turnover in about say 2022 or 2030, we are still not talking from that perspective. As legal community, that should be the fire in our belly. We should be standing and saying that if we have to ensure that our client who is doing a transaction in India gets through with the dispute resolution in 6 months flat, this is what should be done, and that should be coming out from within the legal fraternity rather than some academic discussions where data and numbers are thrown on the whiteboard. So many lakhs of cases are pending, so many judges appointments are pending, any issues for that matter. I'm not trying to touch individual issues. So for the speed of judicial delivery system, I think there again the priority should be more on what is the speed we need to ensure that the pace of development is at a certain level. The other most important aspect is to provide alternate dispute resolution. India should be the hub for international arbitration. We are the best in terms of legal brains. Our brains are borrowed and imported all over the world. Our national law schools are the sourcing points for the best law firms globally, and the same teams are used to resolve the disputes in different jurisdictions in the world. Why can't we have it here? So these should be the directions of legal reforms on the legal curriculum side, training side, judicial delivery system side, opening up the legal market and making India an international hub. A hub for international arbitration. With these, possibly, we can try and see that some of the constitutional mandates we may be achieved, and the legal community really stands up. Well, this slide kind of just sums up what we discussed just now. That's all broadly I wanted to discuss on the direction for legal reforms. On the law firm's perspective, since that's what Ram mentioned to me to start with, I think the law firm should forget about how the direction of reform should be and the development. I think first of all that there needs to be a lot more inward working on how exactly teamwork, collective working environment. Some firms are there as an exception. I'm not branding all, but I think the style of working, the whole notion of what is a law firm in India, and how anybody who joins a firm is able to see his retirement day in the firm or not. I think till we reach there, the law firms need a lot of internal working to do. And in the short run, we need to stand by the nation and enable growth to take the center stage in legal reforms and not bring petty issues to start opposing the reform initiatives of the government on the legal side. Thanks a lot. I think that's all I had to say. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Manoj. I can't resist myself once again from sharing an incident, but which makes a lot of relevance here. Way back 2001, I had an opportunity of traveling to Japan, and what I'm going to share with you, and you will all appreciate, is the rule called respect for law. So I had a minor accident in the sense that my car was standing at a slide, and another van came and just touched my bonnet. And suddenly, I got a bit petrified. But this gentleman steps out. He comes, he bows before me, I bow before him, and then we do it 2, 3 times. I said, okay, cut it out now. Now, what's it? He directs me, there is a Koban. Koban is nothing but a police station. He just shows me there. So I thought maybe I'm gone. But he takes me in. What he does, he dutifully takes out his insurance papers. He presents it there. And that guy there knew English, and I knew a smattering of Japanese. And I was explained that this guy, because he has come and touched my car, so voluntarily he is depositing his insurance papers and suggesting that in case my car has suffered a damage, then I could go and get it repaired and the insurance will pay for it. The bottom line that I am trying to submit here is called the respect for law. India is possibly inching towards the respect of the law, but it is going with the factor of fear of law. So unless the fear of fines is there, possibly we will not come towards the respect for law. So that's the point I wanted to make here. Sorry, as I said, I can't resist these one-liners. But over now to a fresh mind in terms of a student. So Ujjaini, the floor is all yours, and let's hear what the next gen has in store, how to take India forward.
Thank you, sir. I'm Ujjaini Chatterji from Symbiosis Law School, Noida. And I'm so honored to be here. It's a surreal experience to be speaking in front of my director and sir, who has been, both of whom have taught me and guided me so much till here. And such fine speakers, it's something that I'm quite excited and intrigued about. Now, as a student, I thought it would be nice to discuss what I would want and how I would want to build India as a country, and me being a part of the legal system, how I would use the system and see and look forward to making a difference to the society at large and the people in the country. So I begin with this little poem that I read a very long time ago by Shakanta Bhattacharya. He was a writer who was talking about the very idea of a society and how it is important to implement our whole concept of humankind to benefit society in every level. It begins with the idea which I have: why don't we kill a child as soon as it is born? Because in future that would be a competition, and many people, many creatures in the animal world might do that. In a jungle they might do that. But I was really not killed when I was born, and I grew up to speak here in front of such fine people. Now, it says when a child is born, we have to make room for him. We have to make the world fit for him to live in. And in the modern world, in India especially, when we are living, there's a lot of parity between the poor, absolutely impoverished, hungry people and us elitist students. And there are students amongst those hungry people as well. Now, we are talking on the Constitution Day and we are discussing so much about the Constitution. What would Dr. Ambedkar really think if he was here today, if he was studying us? And where would the Constitution take us? He was, of course, very happy about the Constitution, but he also said there are ways of reforming it and going forward with it. Now, the National Commission for the Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes give out this statistic about the number of judges, High Court judges, who are from the scheduled castes and tribes and Adivasis. It says Gujarat and Rajasthan didn't even have one High Court judge who belonged to these communities, or Delhi High Court had no Dalit judge, and Tamil Nadu just had 4 out of 38 and Kerala had just 1. So there is somewhere that we are missing out on an inclusiveness, which I think is very important in terms of bringing the communities closer and interrelations between cross sections of communities. Now, as a student, I feel it is very important that elitist students interact in the community at large and we get to know our rural economies, our what happens within the country at large and not just the bigger cities where we are situated. So it's important that as we study, we also travel further and learn about how this world is supposed to shape up, how the world around me is shaping up per se. Now, the power of the youth is very important because we are the ones who are going to build the country in future. Now, we are talking so much about demonetization, about the digitalization of India and so much more. And it is, of course, a very good thing to dream of, that in future we would have a lot of digital world. But then how many Indians have access to internet, when most of us don't have access to healthy water? And that is where the whole concern about turning economic growth in terms of GDP into development comes further. About the rights of people one side, and also the right to sanitation, the right to life, right to good environment, right to good standardized education. It would be so, this panel is so diverse. We have a professor, we have practitioners, we have such fine speakers, but it would be so wonderful to hear some Adivasi from maybe from Chhattisgarh come here and speak about what concerns her. And we could implement those ideas and concerns more into our story which we are trying to write. Translate those stories and gather all the stories together in order to include and build a nation which we want to put forward to the world. And our education needs that standardization. When I talk about standardization, I'm very fortunate to have studied in a college where I got all the facilities to study subjects in depth, outside textbook, and I got the freedom and opportunity and the liberty to think beyond the set rules and the obvious ideas and what I should be thinking about. Nobody imposed their ideas on me. But that should be everywhere, even in the absolutely unknown college, so-called, which may be any university. Any student should be having that access to the basic ideation and innovation, and we should come up more about research, and we should be more research oriented and come up. And I think that is happening also because we have many students. I am somebody who is coming here, and I never expected that my ideas would get so noticed, so encouraged, that my seniors would give me a forum as big as this to come here and speak. And that is such a liberating feeling, and we need to liberate ourselves a little more on these lines. And I worked with Ramaswamy sir a few days back on understanding about how open legal system in terms of welcoming the foreign firms in India and having a foreign environment in the country would be. And we of course dealt with the way employment would get better with so many students getting jobs. And also it would give us an environment where again we would have international ideas coming up, and possibly we also need to internationalize our laws, where probably we find laws for things like disappearances, and go deeper into human rights aspects and have all our minds open up, liberate into various different ideas, and I think that would be a very big project, and any big project needs a lot of preparation. We need to evolve our system a lot in terms of integrating the people from, again, all everywhere, the say the poorest of areas. I mean, the poorest of states in India are sometimes more impoverished and hungrier than poorest states of Africa. So we should not build a system where justice goes away from the hands of the ones who need them most, and it gets concentrated in certain hands. So it's very important we take that nepotism out, and take all the bureaucracy much easier, and make a system which is friendly towards ourselves and our people, and have this interaction amongst cross sections. And I think that interaction part is something that we really need to work for ourselves. I would personally want to go to the absolutely interior parts of the world, the country, and know people, know their concerns and everything else, and move out of that elitist stream of concentrating ideas. So that'll be all. Thank you.
Very nice, Ujjaini. Very nice to hear your views. And again, you compelled me to bring again one more gem out of my thought process. Way back 2013, in a dealership conference when I used to be the head of legal for JCB, we did a dealership conference in Jammu and Kashmir in Ladakh. Now, what I'm going to tell you is really an eye-opener for me. An earth-moving equipment cannot be even synonymously dreamt about to be driven by a female. And lo and behold, what I saw there were two girls, sisters. They were the proud owner of more than a dozen JCBs. And they were sitting there, they were demonstrating to us, and they were telling us how in a male chauvinistic society they had to fight all odds, and today they are the proud owners. And it was a real mind opener for me, at least, to have gone there and experienced it. So it's not that you are unequal in any terms. In any case, you have me on your side, definitely, don't worry, because I am myself a proud father of a daughter. So great experience, great sharing, and possibly the country is looking forward to the next youth. Professor sir, having heard a student, now we'd like to hear your views. Having taught so many students, where do you see the education sector moving?
Honorable panelists on the dais, wonderful speakers whom I heard in the earlier sessions who are among the audience, thank you very much for enriching me today, and thank you very much for being part of this. Of course, I am a learner of law. This is the term we use in a law school. We don't call anybody as a student. We say we all are learners. That takes away every sort of discrimination, be it a teacher or student or a teaching staff or a non-teaching staff or a parent and etc. That's how I address, and that's how we do. I am also the ardent supporter of two schools of thought. One, of course, is sociological school of jurisprudence, to which indirectly Ujjaini just touched upon. And another school is legal realism. Unfortunately, they call it as American legal realism. It's legal realism, I don't know, but we are too fond of westernization. But before I say much, let me just wish you that feel proud, and we are the proud Indians, and we gave ourselves constitution on this very day in the year 1949. It begins with the term, the word, and which is the statement now, we the people of India. So let us strongly believe in that. Well, they say live every moment. My grandmother taught me learn every moment. The ones who know me a bit, they know what place my grandmother has in my life. She never went to school, ladies and gentlemen. But the world was school for her. And she taught me learn every moment. Of course, living comes automatically. So you learn every moment. We have been bombarded with many words nowadays. I'll just say change, alter, repeal, transform, adopt. Nowadays is forward. Why can't we remain what we are and do what we are expected to do? Than unfortunately following each and every one. I am talking in the context of education. As it was rightfully mentioned, the first change, well, of course, we talk more about economics and rest of the things they say they matter or they do not matter. But the principles of economics you need to learn, and they are taught by the teachers and of course in colleges, schools, etc. Just give me half a minute why I am into teaching. Well, I wanted to serve this country, but I could not get through into the army because I could not clear National Defence Academy examination. Then I took admission for law. Was law my first choice? No, ladies and gentlemen. But my father said that there is no noble profession in this world than law. You talk about every freedom fighter, the ones who have made the difference, they have understanding of law and they are learners of law. You be it Lokmanya Tilak, be it Mahatma Gandhi. Well, many of you have studied their statements. Well, I am proud that, and this is another thing which I would like to say, there are the famous dialogues, famous trials, Lokmanya Tilak trial and the Mahatma Gandhi trial. I was told to do analysis of both the judgments. I said, we should not judge them. But the one thing is that Lokmanya Tilak, who was called as Bal as well, you all are aware of Lal, Bal and Pal, the trio, and Lokmanya was given, that title was given by the people to him. He said, if you, of course he faced the trial. Mahatma Gandhiji did not face the trial, if you remember this. The statement made by Mahatma Gandhiji was, this is not the law of my land. I do not feel myself bound by this law, so I have not done anything wrong against the law, if you have read that argument. But Lokmanya opposed it differently. He said, Swaraj. Nowadays, of course, I am sorry, and don't identify me with any party. I don't represent any party, I represent my country. So, there is nothing called Purna as well, I beg to differ. Swaraj is hidden in the term Prajasattak, ladies and gentlemen, and which was given to us long time, and who took it away? Nobody took it away. We do not believe in it, that is the whole problem. I may sound a little political now, but I will not get into that. So, has legal education brought any change in this feeling? 1990, 91 and 92, we all are saying, Mr. Manmohan saying, of course, and I am really sorry, nowadays I see some messages making round and wherein they are talking so ill about such a educationist than a prime minister, I think. I beg to differ with those people, but he not only brought that transformation into, but there were people like Dr. Madhav Menon who brought that into the legal education, which dates back to, and as Mr. Manoj is the beneficiary of that movement, Mr. Amber is, means there are many who come from this prestigious law schools. So they gave that thought to us, what we need to have education in the context of law. So it started in 1990s and the later, and then we came up with the 5-year course. So do we require more changes in this regard? Truly speaking, there are 3 aspects what I have learned over the period: teaching, learning and evaluation. This is what we consider as education. This is, I think, is a belief and must be a mistaken belief. Second is, law is said to be a profession. But are we treated on the par? That is another issue. I am not complaining. I am talking from the perspective of a person who is learning law every day and is trying to improve upon. I am not opposing to engineers, I am not opposing to the professionals called doctors. But engineers do not have to pass any qualifying examination to teach in engineering college. Doctors do not have to, but it is an integral part of their learning that they have to serve after their classes into, so that they learn the basics of it. But when it comes to the law, to become a teacher of law, we are given another qualifying examination. If you do not pass, you are not eligible to teach. Then what is about the learning we did? Unless and until you are net qualified, you are gone. You are not qualified to be a teacher. Teacher should not be a qualification. Teaching should be a passion, and please allow people to teach. And I am fortunate, I can say there are many who are present in this, and that's what has been done in our law school. This is your law school, what I am talking about. I am not talking just about Symbiosis, ladies and gentlemen. That you have very happily have come. We have said that, well, of course there are full-time faculty members. Why can't we honorary faculty members who represent the profession? Let them come and talk, interact with the learners, what really is taking place into the profession. I will not call it as industry. So when you come and talk with them, they get to see beyond the classroom, and that's what learning is. Do not restrict them to this. So this is teaching. Let us get associated and will not. We have many professors within India. This is another issue. I'm sorry, I apologize if it hurts anybody. We don't believe in Indians, we believe in people coming from elsewhere. We have more collaborations with the foreign partners. We do not have collaborations with institutions in India. And truly speaking, that is nowadays is happening. But you have more associations with foreign partners, but Indian law school, like for example, NLSIU Bangalore is doing excellent. Nalsar is doing excellent. Amity is doing excellent. So if I do not have that excellent, why not I go and talk to them? Hey, what is that better you have? Let us just exchange that. We should strengthen ourselves. I may sound nationalist. It's okay if you call me nationalist theory. But why can't we share between and among ourselves, and then we look elsewhere? And I think that's the purpose of Make in India. Make in India is we Indians, etc. Now second is teaching, and then it is the learning. Of course, somebody said that we lack the infrastructure, but truly speaking, I come from a JP college. JP you must have heard about, Jilla Parishad school. I was so fortunate, I had the wonderful teachers, and my school did not have infrastructure, I must tell you. We had walls, we had more trees, and our Guruji, I always, tears come to my mind, Ujjaini knows it, when I take his name Bikaji, he used to teach us under a tree. But that was the learning of life. So there was no infrastructure, but there are wonderful Gurujis, not teachers. Now you have infrastructures, where do you have teachers? Because hardly anybody is coming into the profession. So who should come? So you don't have to leave your full-time employment, ladies and gentlemen. But as I would like that please give a round of applause to individuals like Ojasvita, who is trying to reach out to so many, that she says that the ones who do not have it, let us go to them and let us teach them. This is really Make in India. Make in India just does not mean bring more or the new one. It says that let us believe in that we are the Indians, let us be together, let us collaborate, let us go ahead, etc. Somewhere I may sound Marxist now. But what can I do? India is that land wherein everybody has earned, be it any philosophy. Well, people do oppose. Lots of things have been said about, well, you all have read Constitution of India. I do not presume I perfectly. There is an article called Article 13 Clause 1, ladies and gentlemen. It talks about pre-constitutional laws. Hardly you will find such provision elsewhere. And do you know from where the origin is? We say that, because one of the allegations against Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, those are copy-paste. Ladies and gentlemen, once I oppose discrimination of any sort, but I have read Manusmriti as well. There is a principle wherein Raj Dharma is laid down by Manu. Please don't see me that I come from the affluent class. I am just talking to you as a learner of law. Manu said the Raj Dharma is that if you conquer, do not change the law because people have been following it, you will bring unnecessarily disturbance to their life. And when it comes to principle of prospective overruling, whom do we credit? I do not have disregard for Justice Cardozo because everybody said when the Golaknath judgment came, of course we borrowed that principle from Justice Cardozo in the case Sunburst Oil. Ladies and gentlemen, if you read our own text, then you really understand the question is not make in India, question is to understand India first. So let us understand India. We have so much of better education, we have so much of better standards in this country, but our problem is imitation. So let us not imitate, let us get educated than just being called ourselves as we are literate. So now I'll focus on the another point which if you don't mind, may I take 2-3 minutes if you
I
don't
think
mind?
the moderator is waiting for 3 more speakers with 15 minutes to go.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
So I will say that there is nothing more to say, but I will say, when you are talking about law, I'll just take 1 minute if you don't mind, sir.
Yeah, 1 minute.
1 minute, dot 1 minute. Nowadays, this concept has been that you need to get into the law because you will get a job. Please get rid of that. RC is a profession. It does not demand that you should have. It's a very good qualification. You go ahead with this. I can tell you just simple example. Law has led to creation of several entrepreneurs as well. And they only have brought change into the teaching methods as well. We have a portal, it's an application which is developed by the students, it's called as Curiosity. We fondly say idea and expressions are two sides of a coin called as curiosity, which everyone possesses it. Ladies and gentlemen, it was started by one student and there were two students who were collaborators from another institute of Symbiosis. We started it as an idea. It is so effective, many students are taking advantage, and can you imagine those three are earning in lakhs now because other colleges are subscribed to it. So they have learned it through this education, through people who come on every Saturday in our law school from the profession, who talk to them, they realize these ideas and they go ahead and then they make. I think that is what really is Make in India. And thank you very much for listening to my little stupid words, but I'm sorry, what I can do, you can't avoid me. I'm also an Indian. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ojasvita Srivastava. I am a senior manager legal at Reliance Communications, and I also run a foundation called Project Abhimanyu. Let's come straight to the topic. Coming to this, the entire topic is legal sector, the way forward. I've tried to put it in the perspective of coming to speed with the international legal industry, which the title gives away that, in my opinion, we are not yet where is not there in India yet. In my opinion, this includes equal opportunity. We don't have equal opportunity in India. Unlike in the West, say for example in the UK, you have something called the Equality Act, you have the Human Rights Act, you have the Sex Discrimination Act, you have Disability Discrimination Act, you have Race Relations Act. These acts are there specifically to ensure that there is no discrimination. Equality. And like any other industry, legal industry needs that there needs to be some kind of equality, right? Unless there is equality, it will be difficult to cater to all the sections of the society, yeah? Another thing that we are lacking behind is diversity in workspace. So diversity and equality sound very similar, but what's the difference is that in diversity, we are talking about making a conscious effort to make sure that we have representatives from all different parts of society. Now, when it comes to the legal industry, what do we mean by different parts of society? We're not here doing charity work. We are here doing business, yeah? What we mean to say is that when we are recruiting lawyers, we need to make sure that we are not just recruiting from national law schools, we're not just recruiting from somebody who comes from a background in law, but we give opportunities to students who come from non-national law schools, who come from tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? Another thing lacking is professionalism. So in the welcome address, the law secretary, Mr. Suresh Chandra, made a comment that Indian legal industry is plagued by ad hocism, which is very true, right? By professionalism, what I'm trying to say here is that we need to end ad hocism. We need to have proper systems on how to go about things, right? And finally, I feel we need to add transparency. By transparency, again, we need to, what I mean to say is that we need to have standard processes, we need to have online processes, and when I'm talking about these processes, again, in context of diversity and inclusion, we're talking about the recruitment process. So we need to be more transparent and go online when it comes to recruitment, yeah? Why are we talking about diversity? Why should we become a diverse industry in the legal industry? Because again, once we are diverse, we are able to better cater the disputes, understand the attitudes and the approach of different communities in the society. And as the legal industry, we have to cater to the needs of everybody in the society. So the more we know, the better for us. We can make tailor-made solutions for particular communities. And we are also becoming an employer of choice. So if you, as an organization, are famous for going ahead and promoting diversity and inclusion, obviously people are going to look up to you, right? So what's the difficulty in this? A lot of organizations, a lot of law firms that I talk to and who I try to talk about, giving a chance to students who are coming from non-national law schools or who are coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities, their problem was that the kind of standard of education and exposure that is available in, say, a national law school student is not available to a tier 2 or tier 3 student, right? Another thing is that how do we go around searching talent? How do I go to a tier 3 city or tier 2 city and try and find students there, right? As well as the fact that I am ultimately running a business. I am doing work. My entire decision making has to be around making money, right? So I can't spend my time going out and looking for talent just to make sure that there is diversity and inclusion. Especially since there is no legislative obligation in India, there's absolutely no need for any organization to do that. This is where we come in, Project Abhimanyu comes in, which is an organization that is trying to work pro bono to try and spread legal awareness among students, especially students coming from tier 2 or tier 3 colleges, the first generation lawyers, students coming from non-national law schools, as well as newly formed national law schools, and non-traditional backgrounds. So we have a lot of students who are not lawyers per se. They were studying something else. They were engineers, or they were economics graduates, they were accountants, and then they decide to switch over to law. These kind of students also face a lot of problem trying to get into the legal industry, yeah? So we are trying to give career guidance, career counseling, things like that. Last week, we were at CEFI in Ottawa, and I'm very happy to share. Two of my co-panelists here, Mr. Manoj as well as Mr. Ramaswamy, were there with me. We had 3 colleges from all over Ottawa district, more than 200 students who came in. We had sessions on career options available to law students, especially law students who are coming from a rural background, say Ottawa, and other things like soft skills of a good lawyer, things like that. So what's the point? Thank you so much. So what's the point? Why? I mean, everybody obviously can't go to Ottawa and can't go to rural parts of India, and do things. Everybody can't join Project Abhimanyu and do these. So what is the point of me coming here and talking to you? How can you contribute in the legal industry going forward, making us more professional? So according to me, or in my humble request, is that I would request you to give opportunities to students without discriminating on the basis of what college they're coming from. Give them internship opportunities where you're not paying them anything. They're simply learning, right? So I'm not saying you give an internship opportunities left, right, and center to everybody. Interview them. Find them if they are efficient and if they are good and if they are hardworking and they are talented. Give them an opportunity. When we were in CEFI, we had one student who had cleared 8 bank PO exams. excellent English, fantastic. I mean, the fact that somebody has cleared 8 bank PO exams shows that he is so hardworking. He has done no nonsense in his life. He's not wasting any time, right? He's that focused. Again, invest in training students. So we in India don't have the concept of training contracts. We recruit graduates, we directly make them lawyers, we expect them to work and learn on their own, right? In the West, you have something called a training contract. After you graduate, you join a law firm, for 2 years you undergo training. Once you finish your training, then you decide what you're going to be. During that training, you get an exposure to at least 4 different forms of law, right? That concept is not there in India, except for Hammurabi and Solomon. That is one unique law firm that I have come across who has a, definitely they deserve applause. So they have a 1-year training contract, a sort of a training contract, wherein they take in a 4th-year law student, and then they train him through the last year, through the final year, when the student is working with the law firm, and at the end of the training, they recruit the student. So again, you're not just expecting something out of a student who's lost, who doesn't know what to do. You're training him and then you're recruiting him, right? And then again, go in for more transparency, go in for recruitment that is done online, allow recruitment that is not done per se just by, word of mouth. So have recruitment process, advertise your vacancies online over your websites, and hopefully that will help us allow more inclusion. So thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you, Ojasvita, and me and Dr. Manoj really profoundly thank you. It was truly a humbling experience for us. And last but not the least, we have Aditya with us. Aditya, the floor is all yours. You have complete 15 minutes without any interruption. I purposely put the 15 minutes so that the next panel knows that they are on at 5:45.
So I will have to shut this down if you don't mind. Such wonderful and enlightening crowd here, and the panel of speakers who came before me were also very enlightening. I was taking down notes and points, and I think Manoj ji did a wonderful job. The kind of incisive points he gave me can also be illustrative of the way I can speak and talk before all of you. Anyways, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin this great evening with a quote by Vince Lombardi, who happens to be an American football player. And he gave a statement, it was a short quote which I'd like to quote here. Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. So I think that is quite encapsulating in its own spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, let's summarize what today's India stands for. What is the spirit that drives India today? It's a young, impulsive, aspirational nation which is determined to compete with the best in the world on its own terms of negotiation and hard work, and not to be left far behind by any global player in the best areas of work practices and lifestyle today. A nation that is now rising after 70 years of technological and social morass, that is now working its way up to become an economic superpower of its own stature, and a manufacturing giant in the league of the best in the world, be it Korea, Japan, America, Germany, China, and any other leading manufacturer country of the world. I might have missed some names. So that is the essence of India today. And this change has come from 2014, when we had a new dynamic government that took oath to power and accelerated the pace of economic reforms in the country, basically dismantling the kind of regulatory structure that we were completely entwined with. Let us first understand, ladies and gentlemen, what is the conception of Make in India? And in very simplistic terms, how does it benefit the ordinary Indian? The basic essence of Make in India is not only to promote manufacturing, but also aid in the process of creation to secure, stabilize and empower socially, financially and technologically a nation that was often doomed as a land of snake charmers in the world despite having centuries of sound cultural and spiritual profile. That is what Make in India is all about. It is an attempt to lift the sagging morale of Indian entrepreneurship after decades of license permit Raj that is finally yearning to raise its head high in the process to create, manufacture and globally sell a brand that is a result of perseverance of Indian craftsmanship and technological skill. There is a very interesting thing which I would like to state here. Now by 2020, India is set to become the world's youngest country with 64% of its population under 25. And this demography of a young profile nation is something that is very unique. It's a profile that is rooted to history with a deep sense of modernity. That's how I see it. That's how I see the generation of today. That's how I see India. So with the West, Japan and China, all of them aging, this demographic potential offers India and its growing economy an unprecedented edge that economics could believe that this could add at least 2% to the existing growth rate that India has today. Right now, India from 2014 onwards has become the top destination in the world for FDI. We have a population which is the second highest English speaking population in the world after the United States. This is the inherent strength of India, a nation that was completely shackled by colonial lifestyle and colonial legacy has worked its way gradually to becoming the second biggest English speaking country. This shows the level of aspiration that we have. In many of the rural areas of the country, you will see a lot of young students whose father is a rickshaw puller, somebody is owning a vegetable shop or a cart puller, but बच्चे को अंग्रेजी स्कूल में पढ़ाना है. मैं नहीं चाहता हूं कि हमारा बच्चा ये जिंदगी जिए जो मैंने जी है. This aspiration is very impelling and compelling both. So therefore, this offers us a huge leveraging point for skill-based development, and that is giving impetus to manufacturing, which is Make in India. I will come back to the legal aspect, but let's first understand what Make in India is all about in the deeper sense of the term and why this concept Make in India. So, the greater the aspirations, the greater the hard work and the greater the ability to convert one's inborn skill or application of talent to be channelized into something more constructive, and that is economically, socially, technologically empowering. So, Make in India. The entire conception of making or manufacturing in your own country was something that our generation never thought would ever happen. I mean, I don't want to get into the politics aspect of it, but think about it, that a young aspirational nation that is seeking out to the best in the world now wants to start manufacturing, wants to empower itself technologically, wants to empower itself economically. And economic transformation also means social upliftment. So everything is interlinked. So the idea is that you make India a great manufacturing hub, because once manufacturing becomes an impetus, then your lifestyle is also upgraded, and it is rooted, secured and stabilized in the best global traditions and lifestyle. So that way it becomes an empowering tool, and any empowering tool within the ambit of law, without the ambit of law, is completely incomplete. So an impetus is given to skill-based training, creation of manufactured goods and appliances, securing the interests of manufacturers through the correct usage. An application of law, therefore, in this situation becomes imminent. It becomes imminent. Now, like many of us are lawyers, so as one says in common legal parlance, the principles of natural justice must apply to all. And in this context, it means that care and caution must be taken to ensure that all the sectors and the legitimate competing private interests are not left in the lurch, while securing and protecting their legal rights and its corresponding obligations by the state and the legal frame in a sound, just, fair and equitable manner. So now let's understand the legal aspect, how Make in India is impacting the legal profession in a direct way. Now, apart from the elementary registration and mandatory procedure of company formation under the Companies Act and other procedural and regulatory formalities, the first and foremost step in the beginning of this journey is the empowering and manufacturing of the Indian ecosystem. So once you start manufacturing, what is the first step that you would like to take? The first step that you would like to take would be that you would seek protection under the IPR laws, seeking immunity from your ideation, the ideation of an objective, the ideation of an act, the ideation of a product. So you would like to completely seek that sense of protection that will entail you from any kind of sham or misuse. So this sound protection that is guaranteed to intellectual creativity and subsequent execution on the ground world would also entail the usage of the entire benchmark of IPR law. So that means trademark is covered, copyright is covered, patent law is covered, geographical marks is covered, your the ancillary rules and regulations that come along with it, apart from other procedures and act, there everything stands covered. So that is the first thing, securing your product, securing your ideation, securing your understanding of the kind of good that you would like to produce or manufacture and which is likely to have a direct impact on the common populace. There are several trademark infringement cases which I am sure all of you must be aware of, and often many companies have, so Louis Vuitton is one of them, LV brand, and the other subsequent leading brands like Nike or Adidas or whatsoever, the way counterfeiting of goods happens time and again. Now, this ideation, to put it in legal terminology, is that the novelty and originality of the product remains exclusive, and that this product does not become subject to shoddy commercialism. So that remains a complete priority. And apart from regular licensing and regulatory work for any Indian commercial lawyer as a part of his practice, the enforcement of a strong arbitration mechanism becomes an imperative necessity in the professional solution to any outstanding commercial dispute. So enforcement of an arbitral award, making sure that any arbitration award that is passed by a foreign court or a foreign arbitration tribunal is properly enforced in an Indian court of jurisdiction. But then there is a rider to it. The rider is that this enforcement must be done on a mutual basis. Now, generally, in my course of practice as a lawyer, I have often come across many cases in which Indian judgments have not been seriously taken by courts of other jurisdictions. Because namely, this was a trend that was there for many years. I think once the present government has come and the way business climate has started picking up, so things have become slightly better. So now for any company, say for example, if an Italian company wants to come and invest and start a manufacturing unit for making pasta, wheat pasta or spaghetti or whatsoever. Now if they come and suppose if there is a commercial dispute with an Indian partner, so it's a joint venture, say for example a 50-50 joint venture is there. Now in a 50-50 joint venture, if there is a dispute and subsequently that becomes part of an arbitration proceeding and the Italian court passes an order in Italy that is to be enforced in a court of law here, so it becomes right for them. But if there is a contrary litigation that is filed by an Indian partner in, say for example in Delhi High Court seeking an injunction, and that order is passed and that is not upheld in an Italian court, now would that be fair? Would that be fair? No, that would not be fair. So having a proper mechanism, having a time frame, a time bound manner disposition of an arbitration proceeding would be the most important thing. That would help in actualizing the conception of Make in India. Because if there is timely resolution of disputes, then that will give a fillip to trade. कि अगर यहाँ पे आपको परेशानी हो रही है, अगर आपको ये समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि हमारा जो बिजनेस ठप हो गया है, तो मेरे पास 3 महीने का टाइम है कि मुझे 3 महीने में ये सारा डिस्प्यूट सॉल्व कर लेना है. सो अकॉर्डिंगली द आर्बिट्रेटर इज ऑल्सो अपॉइंटेड, द लॉयर्स आर ऑल्सो अपॉइंटेड, द लॉ फर्म इज ऑल्सो डूइंग द ड्यू डिलिजेंस, एंड सब्सिक्वेंटली कि 3 महीने में मामला खत्म हो गया, वट एवर ऑर्डर इज पास विल गेट इट इन्फोर्स्ड इन अ कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ एंड इट्स म्यूचुअली बाइंडिंग ऑन बोथ द पार्टीज. So this will be a strong impetus to the enhancement of creativity and manufacturing in the country. That is one aspect. Now, this is a most important point which I'd like to reiterate before all of you. Effective adherence to corporate governance, which would be essential because that would ensure reasonable ethicality in the execution of corporate practices. So suppose if a company is commencing its operations in the country, after commencement of the operations, there is internal dispute in the company and say for example the foreign joint venture falls apart and they start leveling allegations, and in the midst to downplay each other, they start resorting to malpractices of corporate governance, say for example transferring the shareholders majority stake into the Indian partner's name despite having a joint venture, all of that. So these type of issues. Now that's where effective corporate governance comes into picture, because that would be the key to protect the right of the investors as well as other stakeholders, shareholders, the common people. Now say for example if XYZ is a prominent company in the country, it has a capitation of say for example 10,000 crores, and the management that runs it is internally falling in a dispute. Now for a normal layman who's invested in the company, say for example bought 50 shares of the company, is getting around 2 lakh rupees as dividend. Now the divisive tactics of the internal directors of the company will have a direct bearing on the shareholders' life. So effective corporate governance practices is also key to the understanding of manufacturing in a country that is yearning to rise high. The recent illustration I'd like to give is the Tata and Mistry case. Now Tata company is one of the most respected companies of the country. But after this dispute between Ratan Tata and Cyrus Mistry, there is a huge shock to the ordinary investor, because Tata company was perceived with a certain amount of class and a degree of reassurance of trust. So reassurance of trust is the most important thing. And once the process of incorporation stands commenced for any manufacturing company, the manufacturing unit intending to do business in the country then therefore would be scrutinized on all the parameters of legal parlance that is governed under the Constitution of India. So this is a very broad based understanding, and in this broad based understanding you cover all the laws. So from IPR to corporate governance to regulatory work to income tax to arbitration, and then the subsequent law. Say for example if there is a dispute with the government, so you file a writ petition in a high court, or you challenge a proceeding in a tribunal, or you go in a Supreme Court writ directly, and then you want to take an injunction. Suppose the dispute is of such a nature that it is likely to affect the bilateral relationship between two countries. So that also needs to be taken care of completely, because you cannot obviate the right of one investor and enforce the other, and subsequently enforce the other and then bring the other. And last point which I'd like to make is, and this goes for all the lawyers and the law firms who are present here and in general, effective delivery of right service as legal professionals, because of paramount nature as service apart, because that would also entail the right branding of the country as an investment destination for manufacturing and other allied service sectors. So the right kind of branding that is required to make sure of that India is promoted as an investment destination and subsequently a manufacturing country that is keeping all the procedural and the legal aspect completely consumer and customer friendly and investment friendly. That also needs to be taken care of, because you cannot have a coercive system that is designed to oppress an investor who's taking such a big risk, and flying down all the way from another part of the world and coming to invest in a country. So that also includes law and order and everything, including giving tax breaks or the right kind of investment climate that is sought to be given to enforce that the right kind of growth happens in the real sense, commercial growth. And with this, I'd like to conclude that Make in India can only be successful if the legal profession entails that they have to do their best. Of course, that also means that giving ethical services to our clients who are coming all the way to this country to invest, create job opportunities, and not just see them purely from the point of being a professional client only, but also to enhance India's image. In some cases, we can also have an ADR also, and then of course, for a faster resolution of dispute, the Commercial Courts Act is also there. Everything is there. So thank you so much. It was wonderful. I'm so sorry I'm the last speaker. I've bored you, all of you, with my points. But I tried to be reasonable with everyone. I think this was important that we cover a gamut of areas that would broadly, fall within the parameter of getting to invest in the country and also helping the legal profession grow as a whole. Because Make in India is something that is directly connected to our bread and butter. So it's important to know this portion and this understanding of Make in India as well. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great evening.
Thank you, sir. And you're very wrong in saying that you bored all of us. I'm sure that all of us are enlightened about the unrugged paths that the endeavors that India would take in times to come. May we have a huge round of applause for all the panelists.